For years, many of us have carried the hope of seeing one more Friday installment, a final laugh with Ice Cube and the crew. But that hope fades a little more each year. Not just because Chris Tucker decided he was through, but because the foundation of that comedy, the beloved faces who gave the franchise its soul, are now gone. We've mourned John Witherspoon, Bernie Mac, Tiny Lister, and Yvette Wilson, icons who departed too soon. Yet, there is another story, darker and far less talked about, connected to that same street culture and the fame it spat out. It belongs to Justin Pierce, the young man who played Roach in Next Friday. Before Hollywood tried to tame him, Justin was Casper in the groundbreaking, controversial kids movie Asterisk, a raw talent discovered skateboarding in Washington Square Park. He was the genuine article, a homeless skater plucked from the real New York streets. His story is a brutal contrast, a celebrated, free spirit who traded anonymity for a spotlight that scorched him. How does a young man, seemingly on the cusp of stardom with roles in major films like Next Friday, end his life in a sterile Las Vegas hotel room at the age of 25? What did he see in the silence of that room that he could no longer face in the roar of the world? This is the heavy, untold truth of Justin Pierce. The story of Justin Pierce began far from the gritty sidewalks of New York, yet that is where his true spirit was forged. He was born on March 21, 1975, in London, England, but spent his formative years in Manhattan, New York. He was a child of the city, attending PS7 in the Bronx for elementary school and JHS 141 in the Riverdale section for junior high. He grew up knowing the difference between the polished avenues and the raw, untamed parts of the borough. When Justin was just 15 years old, the anchor in his young life gave way. His parents divorced, a rupture that devastated him emotionally. This profound loss led to a physical dislocation. He and his mother moved to Pennsylvania. But the change of scenery did nothing to mend the broken bond between them. They were constantly at odds. This friction pushed Justin out onto the streets, forcing him to seek refuge in a different kind of home. For Justin, the only constant was the thrill of the ride. He acted out, skipping school and getting into trouble. His whole world narrowed down to one thing, skateboarding. It was his obsession, his escape, and eventually, his livelihood. But the tension at home became unbearable, and the call of New York's asphalt was too strong. He left his mother's house and moved back to Manhattan. Once back in the city, the only housing option was a communal space shared with fellow skaters, a basement dubbed the Dungeon. It was here, in the cold, damp underbelly of New York, that he cemented a brotherhood defined by shared passion and mutual survival. Among this crew was Harold Hunter, another popular skater in the neighborhood who became Justin's best friend. Harold understood the pain of a destabilized home, having lost both his parents to drug addictions. Harold was the leader, and together, the crew lived a fast, perilous existence, one where skating led to hanging out, which led to drinking, smoking, stealing, and doing drugs. This life, though free, was often brutal. While still a teenager, Justin was caught in a police roadblock and arrested for possession of both marijuana and heroin. Due to his age, the court showed leniency, releasing him back to his mother's custody. But the cycle was too hard to break. The home life remained toxic, and before long, he was back on the streets of New York, homeless by the time he turned 19. Despite the chaos, his dedication to skateboarding never wavered. He was recognized as a member of the original New York skateboard team and appeared in numerous promotional videos, including one for the Supreme New York group. It was this genuine, raw street credibility that gave him an opportunity that would change his life forever. One day, while skateboarding in Washington Square Park, he was spotted by the photographer and director Larry Clark. Clark was actively searching for authentic young teens to star in his movie, Kids. Justin was perfect. He was homeless, he was a real skater, and he embodied the spirit Clark was trying to capture. He agreed to audition because, having nothing to lose, he was desperate to trade the damp floor of the dungeon for anything else. He secured the role of Casper, a wild, reckless teen living on the edge. The director, Larry Clark, was 52 years old at the time, and the subject matter, sex, AIDS, drugs, violence involving underage teens, was explosive. The movie's authenticity was unsettling. The cast were, in essence, street kids acting out their daily lives. It was not a fictional script written by an adult, but by an 18-year-old skater named Harmony Korine. The on-set environment was chaotic, mirroring the characters' lives. Justin, in particular, caused problems, even breaking his wrist fighting bouncers at the legendary Tunnel nightclub while stealing liquor. The line between the actor and the character, Justin Pierce and Casper, was the release of Kids in 1995 was less of a film premiere and more of a cultural shockwave. It was a raw, unfiltered look at the lives of New York teenagers, and the authenticity, derived from casting actual street kids like Justin Pierce, was terrifying to the mainstream. Many viewers genuinely mistook it for a real documentary. The film was an ensemble, featuring between 16 to 40 kids of every race, all hanging out and skateboarding together, but Justin's portrayal of Casper, the wild, unpredictable heart of the crew, instantly captured attention. The film's subject matter, teen sex, drug use, and HIV/AIDS, was so controversial that it faced immediate censorship. Miramax, which was owned by Disney at the time, refused to distribute a film with such an explicit content rating. In a maneuver that speaks volumes about the desire to get this film out, co-founder Harvey Weinstein created an entirely new production company, Shining Excalibur Films, solely for the purpose of distributing Kids. They fought hard against the NC-17 rating, which would ban anyone under 17 from seeing it. Despite the internal battles, Kids was a hit, grossing over $20 million, a remarkable return given its modest $1.5 million budget. For most of the young cast, the fame came without the fortune. They were street kids, simply happy to have marijuana on set and perhaps $1,000 cash, which for Justin Pierce, who was homeless, must have felt like a fortune. But for Justin, the film was a launching pad. His performance was so compelling that he won the Spirit of Independence Award for the Best Debut Performance of the Year. Kids launched the careers of many other young talents, including Chloe Sevigny, Rosario Dawson, and his close friend, Harold Hunter. For a young man who had been sleeping in a basement called the Dungeon, this was a seismic shift. Justin capitalized on his new celebrity status, though he never abandoned his roots. He continued appearing in promotional skateboarding videos, notably featuring in the Supreme New York group's Supreme Crew 96 and the subsequent Zoo York mixtape. He understood that the only way to build a real career was to leave the familiar comfort of New York and head for the West Coast. In 1997, he made the move to California. He quickly secured more film roles, leveraging his raw, authentic energy. That year, he was young Lex in A Brother's Kiss, acting alongside Emmy Award winner John Leguizamo, Rosie Perez, and Michael Rappaport. More significantly for his dramatic credibility, he landed a role as Eddie in the HBO classic movie Time Felon, starring Omar Epps, Stretch from Naughty by Nature, and Delroy Lindo. These roles demonstrated that Justin Pierce was more than just a street skater. He was an actor with genuine presence and depth. He had achieved what few from the streets ever do. He had secured legitimacy in Hollywood. He had made it off the streets, but he felt a creeping sense of disillusionment. The fast-paced, image-obsessed culture of Los Angeles and Hollywood did not sit well with the New York street kid who valued authenticity. In interviews, he confessed to feeling bored and uncomfortable in Hollywood, stating that people in LA don't seem real and are only concerned with having sex with movie stars. He had found fame, but the stability he craved remained elusive. He tried to ground himself, marrying stylist Gina Rizzo in Las Vegas in 1999. The marriage was a quiet attempt at normalcy for a life that had only ever known chaos. The move and the commitment were meant to signal a new chapter, but the demons from the past, the emotional pain and the lure of the streets, were never far behind. He would often return to New York, and his close friends confirmed the painful truth: Justin Pierce was still deeply abusing drugs. The success he had earned was quickly being undermined by the habits he had acquired just to survive. The internal conflict within Justin Pierce reached a fever pitch around the turn of the millennium. In 2000, he secured the role that brought him his most mainstream exposure, Roach in Ice Cube's sequel, Next Friday. This role, a stark contrast to the gritty, documentary-style acting of kids' movie, placed him firmly in the lucrative world of mainstream Hollywood comedy. The film was a huge success, grossing $14.5 million in its opening week alone, cementing Justin's status as a recognizable actor. This was supposed to be the victory lap, the moment where the homeless skater definitively claimed his place in the world. But the success was a facade. The glitz of California and the superficiality of Hollywood only amplified his sense of alienation. In his own words, as quoted by those close to him, the people in LA did not feel real. He missed the raw, authentic grit of New York, retreating there frequently to reconnect with the friends who truly understood him. This sense of boredom and displacement exacerbated the deep-seated issues that had followed him from the Bronx basement. His friends recounted how he was still heavily abusing drugs. The marijuana and heroin use from his teenage years had evolved into a dependency on harder substances. Stories emerged of him finding a crystal meth dealer in Philadelphia while shooting a movie in Pennsylvania, disappearing for days from the set to binge on speed. He was trapped between the clean, promising future of Hollywood and the self-destructive pull of his past street life. The lines between his acting roles and his actual identity, a problem already visible during the filming of Kids' movie, continued to blur. He had played a wild boy in Casper, and he carried that energy into his daily life. It was an attempt to maintain a fierce street credibility that his success seemed to threaten. He was a wild boy in real life, and his behavior on set could be erratic. The tension he faced was immense. His marriage to stylist Gina Rizzo in 1999 was an attempt to anchor himself to a stable adult life. They had settled down in Las Vegas. But the pressures of fame, the constant touring, the internal emotional pain, and the relentless drug abuse placed a severe strain on this new commitment. The move to California, the success of Next Friday, and the attempt at a conventional marriage were not enough to silence the demons that screamed louder than any applause. Despite these struggles, Justin Pierce continued to work. He appeared in films like Pigeonhole, King of the Jungle, and even did a couple of episodes on the show Malcolm in the Middle. Each role was a testament to his undeniable talent, but each success masked a deeper, escalating crisis. His former life as a young man arrested for drug possession was catching up to his current life as a young star. The contrast was exhausting, and the cost was his mental and emotional stability. He felt that he had something to prove, even if it meant sacrificing his fame and money for the respect of the streets. The boy from London, raised in New York, was lost in the vast, impersonal landscape of celebrity, finding his only escape in self-destruction. The final act of Justin Pierce's short life unfolded far from the New York streets that defined him. It happened in the stark, glittering artificiality of Las Vegas. The purpose of his visit was a career high point. He was there as part of the promotion for Next Friday, alongside the cast and crew, and also for a video shoot with a fashion company. This was supposed to be a celebration of his success, a moment where the boy who was once Casper embraced being Roach on the big screen. On July 10, 2000, tragedy struck. Everyone was scheduled to meet at the mall for an autograph signing and fan greeting. Justin Pierce never showed up. Hotel security was dispatched to check on him at the Bellagio Hotel, a symbol of high-roller luxury that stood in stark contrast to his rough, authentic background. They found him dead in his room. He had taken his own life. He was only 25 years old. The shock was immediate, but the questions were deeper. The official story included a devastating detail. Justin had left 2 suicide notes. Yet, those notes were never made public. The silence around the content of those final messages has fueled decades of speculation and pain. Many wondered what truths were contained within them that the world was not allowed to hear. Those closest to him offered theories, trying to make sense of the incomprehensible. Friends noted that he had been grappling with severe emotional pain and personal problems. His friend, Leo Fitzpatrick, who played Telly in Kids' Movie, offered a simpler, yet tragically common, explanation, suggesting that it was a drunken mistake, believing that if Justin had simply slept it off, he would have woken up the next day. But rumors circulated, suggesting infidelity, that his wife had allegedly cheated on him with another skater friend. The death echoed across the industry. Just a year earlier, actor David Strickland from the TV show Suddenly Susan had also taken his life at the Oasis Motel on the same Las Vegas Strip. The city of manufactured dreams had become a place of silent despair for young stars. The tragic ending of Justin Pierce highlighted the devastating costs of transitioning from the brutal authenticity of the streets to the equally brutal, yet false, promise of Hollywood fame. The tragedy of Justin Pierce was not an isolated event. It was a devastating symptom of a system that consumes raw talent and spits out the remnants. 6 years after his suicide at the Bellagio, his best friend and fellow Kids' Movie star, Harold Hunter, died from a cocaine-induced heart attack. Close friends confirmed that Harold had turned heavily to drugs and alcohol after failing to secure sustained acting work. The dual loss underscores a painful reality for young actors plucked from the streets. The film may end, but the struggle for survival, both economic and psychological, continues. Justin Pierce left behind a legacy that is difficult to categorize. He was awarded the Spirit of Independence Award for his debut performance, and his most recognized role as Roach in Next Friday will forever be etched in comedy history. Yet, his story is less about the roles he played and more about the price he paid for authenticity. He was one of the faces of the controversial kids movie, a film so real it made the public uncomfortable, and for years afterward, he and his fellow cast members struggled with being stereotyped. The struggle to shed the Casper persona while facing deep personal pain, from his parents' divorce to his battle with heroin and crystal meth, became an unbearable weight. We can only speculate on what drove Justin Pierce to that final, irreversible moment, a choice veiled by 2 unreleased notes. Perhaps it was the crushing realization that Hollywood could grant fame but not inner peace. Perhaps it was simply too difficult to exist in a world that rewarded the facade but punished the authentic trauma he carried. To anyone watching this who has ever felt the isolation of success or the cold grip of addiction, Justin's life is a reminder that the loudest applause often echoes an unseen silence within. His death, like that of his friend Harold Hunter, serves as a profound call for compassion and vigilance regarding mental health and the dangers lurking beneath the glitter of sudden fame. We read every comment. If the story of Justin Pierce or the kids movie touched you, or if you remember his breakout role in Next Friday, share your thoughts below. Let us remember the human behind the character. If you believe his talent deserves to be remembered for more than his tragic end, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of black celebrities and cultural figures whose stories continue to shape America. Rest in peace, Justin Pierce.